She left her little girl with her grandfather for just an afternoon, but when the girl told her mother what he did, she was horrified and immediately called the police. It was a cloudy afternoon and the wind was blowing gently as Camila and her daughter Sofia walked hand in hand towards SEU Antonio's house. The girl looked curiously at the iron gates that surrounded the property. Seeing her daughter's apprehension, Camila decided to start a conversation to reassure her. "Dear Sofia, I'm only leaving you with Grandpa Antonio for a few hours, okay? I need to take care of some work-related things and I'll be back soon," said the mother. "Okay, Mommy. But I've never stayed with Grandpa before," said the little girl with her head down. "I know, my love, but remember that I told you he's Dad's father, even though we don't spend much time with him since Dad passed away. He's still our family, our only family," explained the woman. Sofia looked at her and nodded, trying to show courage in the face of this new experience. "All right, Mommy. I'm sure we'll get along fine. I'll take this opportunity to learn more about Daddy. And remember, you're just a phone call away if I need anything," said Sofia with a smile on her face. She hugged her mom tightly and kissed her forehead before ringing the doorbell of her grandpa's house. When he opened the door, Camila was a little surprised by his worn-out appearance and stern expression, even though he tried to give a timid smile as he looked at his granddaughter. "Hello, Sofia. I was looking forward to spending some time with you. We'll have lots of fun today," he said. The little girl smiled shyly and said goodbye to her mother as she entered her grandfather's house. Camila watched her daughter, trying to disguise her concern, as she walked back to her car, her heart feeling heavy. She had never been separated from her daughter for even a single minute. The young mother was a strong and determined woman of 30 years, with a life story full of challenges and triumphs. Having grown up in an orphanage, she always valued the importance of family and believed in the power of love to transform lives. Despite facing financial difficulties all the time and working odd jobs to support herself, at 24, she met Rodrigo, a dedicated and caring young mechanic. The two fell deeply in love and soon got married, expecting their first child, Sofia. However, Camila's life would take a dramatic turn when, months after the birth of her baby girl, Camila's husband tragically died in a car accident at the workshop where he worked. Despite receiving compensation for the accident, the money was not enough to secure the long-term livelihood of Camila and her daughter, Sofia. From then on, Camila dedicated herself fully to raising and educating Sofia, playing the roles of both mother and father. Over time, the two formed an inseparable duo, facing life's challenges together and supporting each other. The tragedy only strengthened the bond between mother and daughter, making them true best friends. Antonio, Rodrigo's father, was a solitary and enigmatic man who lived in a house surrounded by a huge garden in the outskirts of the city. After the death of his son, he isolated himself even more, avoiding contact with his daughter-in-law and granddaughter. In the first few years after Rodrigo's death, Camila tried to maintain contact with her father-in-law, but her attempts at reconciliation always seemed to be hindered by the pain and grief they both shared. As a result, visits became increasingly rare over time, until the connection between the two families was practically lost. Sofia grew up hearing stories about her father, and despite not knowing him, she felt a deep affection for his memory. However, her paternal grandfather was always a mystery to the girl. The few memories she had of him were of a serious and distant man who seemed to be hiding some secrets in his mysterious house. So he was not the first choice for the woman to take care of her little girl. The young mother was not very comfortable leaving her daughter with him, but she urgently needed to look for a job, and she had finally landed an interview for a steady job as a caregiver. Since she had no one else to leave her daughter with, she had to accept that her grandfather was the only option to take care of her for a few hours. And so it was, when Sophia arrived at her grandfather's house, a shiver ran down her little body. The environment seemed strange, dark, and lifeless. The walls were painted in a dark tone, and the lighting was dim, making every corner seem to hide some secrets. The 6-year-old girl felt scared and shrunk. Antonio, looking intently at his granddaughter, spoke with wide eyes and a somewhat forced smile. "Don't worry, my dear. I know that my house may seem a little different from what you're used to, but I promise it's a place full of interesting things. For example, would you like to see my special room?" The man continued to hold Sophia's hand and led her to the said room. The little girl tried to resist, saying that she was fine staying where she was, but he persisted, his voice sounding eerie to the small girl. "Come on, girl, let's have some fun," he said, while Camila hurried through the streets of the city with a heavy heart for leaving her daughter with her unfamiliar grandfather. Worry and anxiety were visible on her face, giving her a somber and restless expression. The day was cloudy and windy, with dry leaves swirling on the ground, creating a scene that seemed to reflect the whirlwind of emotions that the young mother was feeling. She arrived at the interview location, a small restaurant with a cozy and inviting atmosphere, took a deep breath, trying to compose herself and focus on the important task at hand, impressing the interviewer. However, her concern for Sophia continued to torment her. As she entered the establishment, she was greeted by the manager, a middle-aged man with a friendly smile and a professional demeanor. "Good morning, you must be Camila. We've been expecting you. Please come with me," he said. The interview began with questions about her skills and previous experiences, but the poor woman had difficulty concentrating on her answers. Her hands trembled slightly, and she stumbled over her words, unable to hide the insecurity that dominated her. It was as if she had a bad premonition, and the anguish seemed to have seeped into every part of her being. The manager noticed her expression and asked, "You seem a little nervous, is everything okay?" She hesitated before answering, not wanting to appear weak or incapable, but knowing she couldn't hide what she was feeling. She explained, "I'm sorry, I'm a bit worried today. I left my daughter with her grandfather for the first time, and I'm anxious about how she's doing." The man felt sympathy for her, and she could see empathy in his eyes. "I understand," he said. "Being a mother is a huge responsibility, and it's normal to feel worried. But she must be okay. Let's continue the interview and try to stay focused, okay?" The interview continued, and Camila did her best to pay attention to the questions and answer clearly and confidently. However, the internal turmoil continued to consume her, making her think she might waste this opportunity. As soon as the conversation ended, she thanked the man and left the restaurant, feeling a mixture of relief and apprehension. She wasn't sure if she had done well enough to secure the job, but she knew she needed to get back to her little girl with a job secured. Determined to find employment, the mother spent the rest of the day traversing the city, handing out resumes and searching for opportunities. The exhaustion and discouragement were evident in every step, but she couldn't afford to give up. Her life was tough, and the relentless pursuit of a stable job was just another challenge to be faced in her daily struggle to support her daughter. Her aching feet and dark circles on her face showed how challenging the day had been. Camila felt the pressure of time passing by. But did you know that every minute away from Sophia increased her restlessness and made her anxious as the afternoon progressed and the shadows grew longer? She began to lose hope of finding a job that day. Poor thing had faced several interviews and submitted countless resumes, but nothing seemed to materialize. Her frustration and despair were mounting. As she thought about how she would get through another night of uncertainty and worries, finally, with the sun setting and the city lights beginning to turn on, the young woman decided it was time to go back to Antonio's house and fetch her little girl. Although the day had been tough and seemingly unproductive, she couldn't allow herself to be discouraged, as she had a little creature depending on her. The way back to her father-in-law's house was long and winding. Camila felt the weight of anxiety and uncertainty increasing on her shoulders, as if she knew that something was wrong, as if she had a premonition. She imagined various possibilities of what could have happened to her daughter during the day, fueling fear and discomfort that already dominated her. Speaking of her little girl, she and the man were coming out of that secret room where they had spent the entire afternoon together. He leaned down, looking discreetly into Sophia's eyes, and spoke with an enigmatic smile. "This is our little secret, okay? You can't tell anyone." At that moment, the mother knocked on the door, trying to contain her restlessness and frayed nerves. She was eagerly waiting to see her daughter again and find out how their time apart had been. Then, the gentleman opened the door, and she could see her little one at the back of the room, grabbing her backpack. There was something different in the atmosphere of the house, and the woman felt a sense of confusion as she realized that her daughter was fine, but she couldn't help but notice the air of mystery and conspiracy between the two. It made her more uneasy as the little girl approached. Antonio bid farewell to Sophia, whispering in her ear, "Remember what I told you, Sophia. You can't tell anyone, okay?" The little girl nodded in agreement, and the grandfather moved away, allowing mother and daughter to reunite. Camila observed the exchange of words and gestures between them with growing concern. She didn't exactly know what had happened during her absence, but the air of secrecy and the man's insistence that her daughter not share something with anyone made her feel insecure and uncomfortable. The mother hugged Sophia tightly, relieved to see her well, but at the same time uneasy about what might have transpired between her and the grandfather. This feeling echoed in her mind and tormented her with the doubt of what exactly this secret was about. Then the young woman smiled at her father-in-law, trying to hide her distress, and said, "Thank you for taking care of her today. It was a great help, Antonio." He returned the smile, looking directly at the little girl, and replied, "It was nothing. You can bring her any time you need to." The look he gave the girl sent a shiver down Camila's spine. They said their goodbyes and got into the car, starting the journey back home. However, on the way, the mother tried to strike up a conversation with her daughter, curious to know what had happened during the afternoon. "So, what did you and Grandpa do today?" she asked, casting a worried glance at her daughter through the rearview mirror. The little girl hesitated for a moment, avoiding her mother's gaze, and replied, "Oh, we played a little." "Played with what?" insisted Camila, sensing that there was something Sophia didn't want to share. The little girl bit her lip, seeming nervous, and uttered a sentence that made Camila's heart race. "He showed me some things that hurt," Sophia said. Camila paled and struggled to maintain her composure while driving. The statement sounded alarming, and she feared the worst. Controlling her voice, though trembling inside, she asked cautiously, "What do you mean by things that hurt, Sophia?" Sophia replied, "I can't tell you, Mommy." The girl turned to the other side and stared out of the window. Camila tried to disguise her panic and pleaded, "Sophia, you need to tell me everything, my love. What happened?" The little one spoke, "He made me touch something. But Grandpa told me not to tell." Now the mother was panicking inside. "You can tell me anything, my love. What did you touch and when did he make you touch it?" "I didn't like it, Mommy. I was scared, but he was beside me and he told me it was just to see how it was." Camila felt her heart squeeze, tears welling up in her eyes. "And what else happened, sweetheart? Please tell me." The girl shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "I can't, Mommy. He said it was our secret and I couldn't tell anyone. I promised, Mommy." Upon hearing those words, the distraught mother couldn't hold back her despair any longer. She broke into sobs while trying to keep her attention on the road. Camila's crying affected Sophia too, and she started crying as well, not understanding what she had done wrong. "Mommy, Did I do something bad? The little girl asked between sobs. No, my love, you didn't do anything wrong. Mommy is just worried about what happened, okay? She tried to calm her daughter, although she herself was in panic. As soon as they arrived home, Camila picked up the phone and dialed the police, her voice trembling. With bitter tears rolling down her face, she pleaded, "Please, you need to help me. I left my daughter with her grandfather, and she said he did something to her, but she didn't want to tell me what it was. She said it's a secret and that he made her touch something. I don't know what to do. I'm desperate." After officially filing the report with the police, Camila followed their instructions and met with the officers the next day. They would accompany her to SEU Antonio's house with specific orders. The mother called the man, pretending that everything was fine and that she needed to leave her daughter with him again for a few hours. He agreed with his sinister voice, almost making her cry on the other end of the line. They headed to his house, and she tried to hide her nervousness as she handed Sophia over to her grandfather, pretending that everything was okay. As she walked away, the agent started monitoring the audio from the hidden microphone in the little girl's blouse. Camila's heart pounded as she left her daughter alone with that man, but the police assured her that nothing would happen to her. The girl would only serve as bait to catch him red-handed. So they listened to the conversation between the two, which seemed normal until that moment. The mother almost fainted when Mr. Antonio said, "Let's go to our secret hideout." She started screaming and pleading for him to rescue her daughter from that monster. The police team acted immediately, invading the house in search of the grandfather and granddaughter. Camila ran along anxiously and afraid of what she might find. They entered the house carefully and quietly, so as not to startle the possible criminal, and followed the sound of voices to a closed room. "Take it here, Sophia," the man was saying. It was at that moment that the agents broke down the door and everyone was shocked by what they saw. Instead of a dark and sordid scene, they found a well-lit mechanical workshop with various tools and parts scattered on the floor. In the center of the room, Mr. Antonio and the little girl were working together on a small mechanical invention. Mr. Antonio, startled, asked, "What's going on? Can I help?" No one understood what was happening. The police officers entered and looked surprised as they interrogated him. "What's going on here?" One of the agents asked firmly. The bewildered grandfather replied, "We're working on a small project of mine, but what about you? What are you doing in my house?" Camila, still with her heart racing, looked at Sophia and asked, "Is it true, my daughter? Is this what you do here?" The little girl nodded and said, "Yes, Mommy, I'm helping Grandpa build a robot." The mother felt a mix of relief and confusion, not knowing what to say to her father-in-law, and just stood petrified. The agents, noticing the expression of shock on the poor woman's face and not wanting to embarrass her, simply said they had received an anonymous tip and were verifying it. "A tip that I'm teaching Sophia about gadgets," said the grandfather. Camila, still with her heart racing, looked at Sophia and asked, "Is it true, my daughter? Is this what you do here?" The little girl nodded and said, "Yes, Mommy, I'm helping Grandpa build a robot. And if you liked it, for sure the next video that's appearing on your screen will also touch your heart. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel Special Stories, give a thumbs up to the video, and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming emotional stories. Kisses and see you in the next video here on History Flicks.